Hi all, just want to make a quick video about some current events concerning the coronavirus. Here in Australia, I'm in Sydney, Australia, and if you look at from a doomsday prepping scenario or general prepping survival, what we've seen here is a couple of things. A is, yes, you have to prep to keep you and your family safe against all sorts of disasters and virus outbreaks, biological attacks, stuff like that can be added to the list of what you need to prepare for. Always be prepared, have supplies at home, stock up on stuff, not just food and so forth, survival, hygiene things. And what's happened here in Sydney is that there was a rush on toilet paper. For whatever reason, I'm not too sure why toilet paper is the in thing. There was a rush, a panic buying of toilet paper for whatever reason. Even though I'm not too sure why exactly. It's a good thing to have, perhaps, but the angle I want to talk to you about is it was interesting because it's the first time I'm aware of such a doomsday style panic occurring here in Sydney, Australia. Now, I think Sydney can be synonymous with any Western developed civilized sort of country. You might be in England, Western Europe, North America, the US, Canada, these sorts of developed countries where we don't see these sorts of problems. The problems we have around the world, disasters and so forth, and wars. I know Americans like to prep and do doomsday prepping, even though they don't have, well, they do have disasters every now and then, like natural disasters, so it's good to always be prepared. The same goes for Australia. A lot of natural disasters here, but we don't normally have the problems we see around the world. Sydney, like any other sort of Western civilized city, is normally peaceful. You get disasters and flooding and blackouts and stuff, sure, that you've got to be ready for. But this sort of panic buying, it's almost like a doomsday end of the world scenario where there was a big rush on the shops and toilet paper's in short supply. It's sort of a funny subject, but it's serious at the same time. Toilet paper's in short supply in Sydney. The shelves are empty. Supermarkets finally are putting quotas or limits on how much you can buy and so forth. So there's a very serious subject here from the point of view of doomsday prepping, being prepared for disasters and so forth, which I talk about, many other people talk about, especially Americans like to do that. I encourage everyone to prepare for any disaster. You start from what would you do in a blackout? That's the most common sort of disaster that occurs. A big storm comes, there's a blackout, you need candles, torches, lights, stuff like that. You've got no power. Are you going to have water to drink if your water's dirty? Stuff like that. And then, obviously floods are the next level, then, going up earthquakes and all this sort of stuff. You've got to prepare for any eventuality that might occur or reasonably occur wherever you live. For example, if you live near a river on a floodplain and there's a 1 in 100 year chance of flooding, you've got to be prepared for a flood. You should have flood boats, stuff like that. You should have storage in the attic, in the roof. You need to get out. If there's a storm event on the way, you need to have a plan to escape to higher ground. Get the family in the car and go into the hills or to a family or friend or somewhere. Stuff like that. You need to prepare for eventualities and possibly things you don't expect as well. I just wanted to make the point about this toilet paper rush. It sounds a bit funny, but it's very serious from a doomsday prepping survival point of view. I've never seen it before in Sydney, an advanced Western city, having a rush and having empty shelves. I personally, you see it in third world countries, in the Soviet Union, where the shelves are empty, people fight to survive, battle to survive. You hear, things like, the joke about you're going to eat your neighbour's brains and stuff at the end of the world and you got nothing. Well, people were fighting over toilet paper here in Sydney. This is 2020 in Sydney, Australia, and we had empty shelves and people were fighting over rolls of toilet paper. Almost a trivial thing, but imagine if there was a real disaster and there was no food for your family and there are fights about toilet paper in 2020. So think about that, all you people out there with families, children and stuff. Think about that. Very, very, a bit comical, but very serious. If you want to be prepared, start prepping. Be a prep, research prepping, whether it's doomsday prepping, survival, all that sort of stuff. Stock up on things in your home, survival items. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if there's no food, there's no fuel, there's no power? Think about that. Ask yourself questions. You and your family should sit down, the parents especially, of course, keep your kids involved, and ask questions. If there's a blackout, what do we do? Do we have a torch? Do our kids know where the torch is? First aid. Someone cuts themselves. Where's a first aid kit? Do your children know how to use first aid? Okay, teach your children stuff. Do your children know how to light a candle? Such basic things that people in the West don't know anymore. Obviously things like butchering animals and baking bread and all the old school way of living, that's out of the question. And we should get those skills back. Start basics and go up. How do you find light if there's a blackout? First aid, and work your way up to where's food? How do we make food? How do we survive? Do you need a fire in the backyard, potentially? Like in a real disaster scenario? Have you got fire making in the house? Matches, lighters, tinder, stuff like that? Have you got toilet paper stocked up? You know, all this, a very simple thing in Sydney, but it's a very, very serious issue. Just wanted to talk about that. This applies to any country. If you're in America, Europe, New Zealand, wherever you are, you may think that nothing bad's ever going to happen to you, but I think it's a great thing to prepare. And you may laugh at these Americans, the doomsday preppers, where they do go overboard a bit, but what I saw the last few days here in Sydney is quite scary. A bit comical, but very, very scary. No toilet paper, shelves are empty. I've never seen that in Sydney before. So this raises a very serious question. Think about those issues. Check out my previous videos about prepping and surviving. Check out other videos. Very important for the family. Just a few comments and I'll see you next time.